They can smell you. Before you speak, before you step into the room, before your eyes even rise from the floor, they know. Not because they're wise, not because they've thought deeply, but because nature whispers your secret to them. Weakness. That soft voice, that unsure glance, that aching desire to be liked. It seeps from your skin, like blood in the water. The world is not a courtroom of justice. It is a hunting ground. And you're not the predator. You've become prey, hoping your goodness will disarm the jaws already tightening around your neck. But the beast does not pause to consider your kindness. It lunges, it tears, it eats. Tell me, who taught you that being harmless was a virtue? Who convinced you that the more you sacrifice, the more you'll be loved? They lied. And worse, they lied to tame you. They told you to smile when you're robbed, to kneel when you're betrayed, to give thanks when you're crushed. You thought decency would shield you, but decency without strength is an invitation to be used. The world rewards power. The world respects fire. It kneels to the man who dares to say no, who stares without blinking, who speaks without apology. Do you feel that? That stirring in your chest? That anger rising in your stomach? That's not evil. That's the return of your instinct. Don't silence it. Feed it. You were sculpted to be silent. From the cradle, they carved obedience into your flesh, sanded down your defiance with lullabies of goodness, and dressed your wildness in the rotten fabric of politeness. They told you that a man should never raise his voice, never clench his fist, never bare his teeth, not even when devoured. Be gentle, they whispered. Be humble. But what they meant was, be tame, be small, be soft enough to be stepped over and sweet enough to be forgotten. You call it morality, but it's anesthesia, injected deep into your will, freezing every scream, every refusal, every sacred eruption of your primal self. The ones who taught you this don't believe it. Look around, the liars rise, the wolves feed, and you, the good man, watch, paralyzed, still hoping that virtue will one day be rewarded by a God who stopped listening. This lie, this poison, it lives in your posture, in your apologetic tone, in your compulsive smile when your soul wants to snarl. They told you love wins, but they never told you that love, without power, becomes a leash. They told you to avoid conflict, as if conflict were evil. But conflict is how the strong reveal themselves. You, the obedient, the agreeable, you die slowly, drained not by your enemies, but by your silence. You think you've chosen peace, but what you've accepted is paralysis. You've confused virtue with vacancy, character with compliance. Wake up. There is no glory in being liked by everyone. There is no strength in being digestible. The world does not need more men who vanish. It needs men who cast shadows, who fracture the air when they enter a room. You don't need to be cruel, but you do need to be unbreakable. You think you're being righteous when you lower your eyes. You call it humility, restraint, grace. But the world doesn't see your bowed head and call it noble. It sees an opening. It sees a throat exposed. Your manners, your patience, your constant forgiveness, these are not medals. They are signals. Signals that say, I won't fight. Signals that say, take what you want. The good man, the universally loved man, is the most tragic of all creatures because he lives under the delusion that safety comes from surrender. He thinks that by giving more, yielding more, apologizing more, he will earn immunity from pain. But no, he earns nothing but slow erasure. He becomes the dependable victim, the man whose silence is currency for everyone else's comfort, his reward, a quiet funeral, and a legacy of being forgotten. This is the cost of being nice. Not kind, nice. There's a difference. Kindness is strength under control. Niceness is fear in disguise. The nice man wakes up every day worried, not about his goals, not about his growth, but about who he might offend. He edits his words before he speaks them. He softens his spine before he enters the room. He hopes deep down that if he never upsets anyone, he'll be spared. But spared from what? From being disliked, from being rejected. These are the fears of a man who has no center. And so he builds his identity from the reflections in other people's eyes, fragile mirrors that crack the moment respect is required. Because no one fears the nice man, no one follows him, no one is loyal to him when storms come. He has made himself pleasant and replaceable. They warned you. Machiavelli did centuries ago. He carved it in blood across the pages of history. The man who tries to be good in all things will be destroyed by those who are not. And yet, you still believe. Still clinging to that rusted fairy tale that if you suffer long enough, smile. Often enough, serve diligently enough, someone will crown you with justice. But there is no justice, just only consequence. There is no divine ledger recording your patience, no cosmic prize for being agreeable. Life is not a sermon, it is a strategy. And the man who hesitates, who needs permission, who asks before taking, he loses. Power does not wait for your decency. It does not yield to your intention. It crushes the slow. It buries the meek. It punishes the moral who lack the courage to act. When action is brutal, you think that because your heart is pure, the world owes you safety. But the world doesn't recognize purity, only pressure. When a hard decision rises like a mountain before you, the good man trembles. He prays, he delays, and in that hesitation, he is devoured. Whether in business, politics, love, it is the man who decides, who moves, who strikes, that bends fate. The myth of the virtuous leader dies in every boardroom, in every bedroom, in every war room. Because when survival is at stake, people do not look for saints, they look for swords. They follow the one who does not flinch, who knows when to be fire instead of light. And the man still hoping to be universally liked, to be the gentle king of a ruthless domain, will not be overthrown. He will simply be ignored, forgotten before he ever ruled. They praise your goodness with a smile that hides disdain. They say you're so considerate, so gentle, so well-mannered. But what they mean is, you're easy to control. Behind every compliment lies an unspoken truth. The more agreeable you are, the less dangerous you seem. And in this world, danger is power. So they decorate you with empty flattery, the way a farmer might pet a cow before slaughter. What a good man, they say, while they strip your time, your energy, your dignity. They want you predictable, like a script they've read 1,000 times. Predictable men don't rebel. They don't challenge. They don't defend. And so they are devoured, slowly, chewed up in meetings, in relationships, in friendships that pretend to care but feed on compliance. Understand this. When someone says you're a good man, ask yourself, do they respect you, or are they simply relieved you won't resist? Machiavelli never worshipped virtue. He understood that morality is only admired when it costs nothing. The moment it requires sacrifice, people abandon it. The moment it threatens their comfort, they betray it. The man who tries to lead with goodness alone will find his throne built on sand. The world rewards those who can appear moral, not those who are. It follows those who wear masks, not those who bear their faces. This is not a call to deception for its own sake, but a call to strategy, to awareness. Because if you cling to moral purity in a world built on manipulation, you will be disarmed, dismantled, and discarded. The prince who aims to be loved by all finds himself hostage to the whims of the crowd. He becomes a servant, not a sovereign. And the moment the people sense weakness, they crown someone colder, someone harder, someone who doesn't ask to be loved, only feared enough not to be betrayed. The world does not reward virtue. It rewards presence. The man who cannot be ignored commands more respect than the man who begs to be understood. This is not arrogance. This is gravity. It is the invisible weight you carry when you walk without apology, when you speak without seeking approval. To build this kind of presence, you must first abandon the need to be liked. Let it rot. Burn the part of you that craves acceptance from people who would trade your dignity for their comfort. Power begins the moment you choose silence over explanation, firmness over friendliness. When you stop needing to justify your no, when your refusal is not a question, but a verdict. That is the moment the room shifts. That is when people lean back, not out of fear of violence, but out of respect for your refusal to be moved. They don't have to love you. In fact, it's better if they don't. Love makes them feel entitled. Respect makes them cautious. And fear, when earned with control, not chaos, makes them obedient. Machiavelli understood this better than any priest ever dared admit. A prince who chases affection will soon find himself a puppet. But a man who walks through life like a storm, no one can predict, becomes a force. The key is restraint, control. Smile when it serves you, but never let the smile be the whole story. Behind it, let there be cold steel, let there be a quiet fire. When people sense that you're pleasant by choice, not by nature, when they feel that your kindness is measured, not automatic, they respect you, because they know that under the right pressure, you won't break, you'll burn. There is nothing more dangerous than being predictable in a ruthless world. The man who always says yes, who always forgives, who always puts others first, he is not admired. He is studied, watched, measured, and used. People learn your rhythm like they learn the habits of prey. They know when you'll back down. They know what words make you flinch. They know how to guilt you, flatter you, maneuver you into silence. And you, convinced you're being noble, play along. You keep giving, keep yielding, until there's nothing left but a hollow shell of goodwill and exhaustion. You weren't loved, you were harvested. And when you stopped giving, they didn't grieve. They replaced you. Because in every arena, politics, business, even love, usefulness is respected. Harmlessness is discarded. The man who wants to be everyone's friend becomes no one's priority. And worse, he becomes everyone's resource. They'll take your energy, your time, your attention, and leave you wondering why you always feel drained. You don't need to be cruel, but you must be conscious. Give with precision. Help with limits. Show mercy only to those who've earned it. Because when you pour yourself into every hand that reaches, you become water, shapeless, tasteless, forgotten. But when you stand firm, when your generosity is rare and your boundaries are immovable, you become fire. And no one forgets fire. Machiavelli never asked you to become a monster. He asked you to become a strategist, to be the man who can smile while calculating, who can appear gentle while holding a sword behind his back. The modern lie tells you that transparency is virtue, that you must reveal everything, feel everything, share everything. But exposure is not honesty, it is vulnerability. And the man who reveals too much is easy to read, easy to map, easy to conquer. Learn this. You are not obligated to make yourself legible to the world. You are not a diary, you are not a confession, you are a fortress. And every wall you build, every silence you choose, every emotion you master, that is power. Because the one who controls his image controls the battlefield. Cold power is not about cruelty. It's about discipline. It's about being able to say no without guilt, to walk away without begging, to look someone in the eye and deny them, not because you hate them, but because you love your own survival more. This is not selfishness, this is clarity. When you give out of obligation, you teach the world to expect your sacrifice. But when you give out of strategy, when your kindness is rare and earned, it becomes priceless. People value what is scarce. They dismiss what is abundant. So stop flooding the world with your warmth. Let them earn it. Let them wonder whether they've gained your favor or merely been spared your indifference. That is the weight of presence. That is the shadow of a man who cannot be bent. To master power, you must first master your emotions. Not kill them, control them. The man who feels everything and shows everything is not authentic. He is unarmed. He is a puppet with exposed strings, each one labeled anger, shame, desire, fear. And anyone who sees those strings can pull them. Watch the emotional man in conflict. He explodes too early, begs too soon, regrets too late. His feelings move faster than his strategy. He's not fighting, he's reacting. And reaction is surrender. The powerful man feels yes, but he chooses when and how to express it. He keeps his fury like a dagger beneath the coat. He speaks when silence has done enough. He smiles when it disarms suspicion. His face is calm, but behind his eyes, a storm is calculating. Emotion is not weakness, but undisciplined emotion is a leash around your neck, and the world will tug it with joy. The strong man uses emotion as a weapon, not a wound. His anger is not a tantrum, it is a tool. His kindness is not an instinct, it is an investment. Even his sadness is not surrendered freely. It is revealed, if ever, only when it serves. This is not deception, it is design. You don't hang every weapon on the wall for your enemies to study. You keep them hidden until the moment to strike. Machiavelli understood this. A ruler who can cry when necessary and command silence when required, who can appear moved by love while driven by vision. That man becomes untouchable because he cannot be provoked. He cannot be manipulated. He can be underestimated, but only once. Predictability is death. In war, in politics, in love, The man who is predictable is already defeated. They see his moves before he makes them. They count on his reactions. They sculpt their traps from the clay of his habits. But the man who moves like shadow, who doesn't speak unless it serves him, who does not flinch when accused or beg when denied, that man is feared, because no one knows where he ends or begins. He is unreadable, and what cannot be read cannot be controlled. This is your task. Become a riddle, not to deceive but to protect, not to hide weakness but to reveal strength only when it matters most. Because mystery is not emptiness, it is concentration. It is power waiting to be unleashed on your terms, not theirs. Machiavelli knew this well. He warned against rulers who showed their hearts too easily. Because hearts are pierced, hearts are baited. The man who lets the world read him like a book becomes a story written by others. But the man who controls his own narrative, who reveals only chapters of his choosing, that man owns his legend. So cultivate silence. Let your refusals be quiet. Let your ambitions be cloaked in patience. When you finally move, let it be like thunder after a long silence. Shocking, undeniable, unforgettable. This isn't cowardice. This is design. Let them underestimate you. Let them mock your calm. And when the moment comes, strike in ways they never prepared for. That is how a quiet man becomes unstoppable. Not by shouting, but by being the storm no one saw coming. The world is drowning in noise. Men speak to fill the void, to avoid discomfort, to seduce approval. But every word you speak is a piece of yourself given away. Every explanation, every apology, every nervous laugh, a signal, a leak, a roadmap to your weaknesses. Silence, however, is armor. It is not absence. It is tension. It forces others to project, to guess, to doubt. And in that uncertainty, you grow larger than life. Because the man who doesn't speak unless he chooses to commands more with a glance than others do with paragraphs. He is not passive. He is deliberate. In a world of desperate performers, silence becomes performance of the highest order. And when he finally speaks, every ear leans forward, not because he is loud, but because he is rare. Learn this. You owe no one your story. You owe no one your explanations. Every unnecessary word is an invitation for the world to rewrite you. And once you've been rewritten, you'll spend your life defending a version of yourself you never intended to show. Machiavelli would call this a failure of discipline. A man who cannot keep his silence cannot keep his power. This isn't about becoming mute. It's about speaking with weight, not volume. Your words should drop like iron, slow, sparse, irreversible. And when you do speak, speak to shape reality, not to seek comfort. The need to be understood is the leash of the weak. But the man who controls his silence commands interpretation. They will study you, obsess over you, try to decode your pauses. That is influence. That is power without a single wasted syllable. You still believe your actions speak for themselves. That if you're honest, hardworking, loyal, the world will see your truth and reward you. But the world is blind. It doesn't see your effort. It sees your reflection in the eyes of others. And if you don't shape that reflection, they will. Rumors, lies, half-truths, these become the narrative that defines you. Your intentions don't matter if your image is left undefended. This is why Machiavelli placed reputation above reality. Because people do not follow what is true. They follow what looks strong. The man who believes authenticity alone will carry him is a lamb preaching to wolves. The world does not reward the pure. It rewards the powerful. And power is perception made durable. So ask yourself, how do they see you? When you walk into a room, do they feel your presence or dismiss your existence? Do they know you as the man who bends, or the man who watches in silence and moves only when it counts? Reputation is armor, but only if you forge it, only if you decide in advance what story the world will tell about you. This isn't manipulation, this is authorship. Are you the calm one when others break? The precise one when others panic? The man who is underestimated until it's too late? Craft that identity with every choice, every word, every gesture. Because if you don't, you will be rewritten by smaller men with louder voices, and your truth, however noble, will be buried beneath the version of you they needed you to be. Weak, safe, controllable. Weak men believe their emotions are sacred. that to feel is to be real and to express is to be free. But there is no freedom in being ruled by storms. The man who weeps openly, rages impulsively, and panics visibly is not brave. He is readable, controllable, exploitable. The world takes note of his triggers, memorizes his reactions, and uses them like buttons on a machine. Push here, and he breaks. Shame him, and he retreats. Praise him, and he obeys. He wears his heart like a target, and then cries out when the arrows come. Machiavelli never despised emotion. He despised slavery, and a man who cannot choose when to feel, when to reveal, and when to restrain is not a man. He is a slave to himself. The solution is not coldness, it is command. Command of the self. Feel everything, yes. Let yourself be flooded with anger, with love, with grief, but let it pass through you like wind through a canyon, not like a flood that drowns your will. Use anger like fire, not to burn blindly, but to cauterize what must end. Use love like a scalpel, not to bleed but to open truth. Use fear like armor, not to flee but to stay sharp. This is emotional sovereignty, the highest form of self-mastery. The man who cultivates it becomes unreadable, untouchable, because others may scream and sweat and collapse, but he remains composed, not because he feels less, but because he's trained himself to act only when it serves, and to remain still when it does not. That stillness terrifies. That silence commands. That restraint conquers. The world forgives victory. It does not ask how, it asks who won. The moment you triumph, your sins are repackaged as strategy. Your ruthlessness becomes resolve. Your silence becomes mystique. But lose, and even your virtues are turned against you. Your honesty is called naivete, your kindness, weakness, your sacrifice, stupidity. This is the cruel arithmetic of power. Results erase morality. Machiavelli knew this. He saw men hang for doing the right thing too. Late and monsters crowned for doing the necessary in time. The prince who hesitates to act harshly, hoping to preserve his purity, discovers too late that he has preserved nothing. Not his throne, not his name, not his legacy, only his regret. You do not owe the world an explanation before you act. Win first. Speak later. And when you speak, let it be not defense, but declaration. Understand this. The world lectures the loser. It canonizes the fallen idealist because he no longer threatens. For them, statues are built not for the man who succeeded gently, but for the one who dared to be ruthless when history demanded it. In business, in battle, in the silence of your own choices, remember, victory reframes everything. You can be hated, feared, envied, but if you win, they will listen. They will study you. They will try to imitate the very traits they once mocked. That is the game. And those still trapped in the illusion of moral reward will spend their lives building arguments while others build empires. So ask yourself not is this fair, but will this work? Not will they approve, and but will I win? The man who understands this does not ask for power. He takes it, because only victors get to write what virtue means. To build a life that cannot be threatened, you must become more than a man. You must become a presence, not loud, not flashy, but calculated, reserved, exact. Your movements must be deliberate, your words scarce, your goals invisible until achieved. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous man is not the one who growls, but the one who smiles with calm while setting the world ablaze behind the scenes. You must move like shadow, unnoticed until necessary, unavoidable once revealed. Never chase applause. Applause is noise. And noise is for performers, not for kings. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them fear your silence more than your fury. Because when a man ceases to beg for permission, when he speaks only when the outcome is guaranteed, he ceases to be seen as an equal. He becomes legend. They will call you cold. Let them. They will say you lack compassion. Let them. You are not here to soothe their insecurities. You are here to carve space where others only ask for room. And that requires steel beneath the skin. It requires that your compliments be weapons, your kindness a strategy, your absence a statement. You do not owe anyone comfort. You owe yourself sovereignty, because the moment they realize you don't need their approval, they will offer it without you asking. The world follows those who refuse to follow. So hold your ground. Show your teeth only when it's time to bite. Speak only when silence has finished its work, and when you strike, never hesitate. That is how shadows become storms. That is how men become untouchable. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be respected. Let that truth burn away every lie they fed you, that if you're kind enough, quiet enough, agreeable enough, life will hand you peace. It won't. Peace is not given, it is claimed, and the man who reclaims it must first kill the weakness within himself, the need for validation, the compulsion to explain, the habit of shrinking in the presence of louder voices. These were chains disguised as virtues. Break them, because Machiavelli never wrote for the noble fool. He wrote for the man ready to rise, the man who stops hoping to be chosen and begins crafting himself into the one who commands. So remember, this: you are not being cruel when you assert yourself. You are being real. You are not arrogant when you protect your space. You are being sovereign, and sovereignty, in this world, is everything. This is the code, not theory. Action. Stop chasing applause. It's bait. Stop choosing love over respect. Love fades. Respect echoes. Master your emotions until even rage becomes your ally. Control your image, or be rewritten. Weaponize your silence. Let it do the talking. Be useful, never harmless. Harmless men are meat. Stay unpredictable. Chaos favors the unseen. Win first, west, then speak if you choose. Burn their rules. Build your own. History was never written by the nicest man in the room. It was written by the calmest, the sharpest, the one who saw clearly and struck first. You've waited long enough. Now move. Quietly, precisely, like a shadow with teeth. And when they finally see you, it'll already be too late. Welcome to your power.